cannot move more rapidly than the unfolding faculties of his consciousness and the strengthening structure of his body will permit. Thus he grows in family, in home, and in school. These are the grades of the mysteries. And finally he comes to the maturing of his faculties, and he stands or sits as in some ancient amphitheater, watching the drama of the world unfold. It is brought to him not only in his own immediate environment, but by the great methods of communication. He can now see what is happening on the opposite side of the earth. He can journey to distant places. The world becomes small. The experiences of all men are available to him. He can live with many races and many kinds of people and worship in many temples. All these things are now his birthright. So he stands somewhere along this line of existence, like those who come back to the greater mysteries, which must be conferred when the priests of time are ready to accept him. In this sanctuary, then, of today, we see the great mystery drama. We see everything from the atomic bomb to interplanetary projected travel. We see all the inventions and the arts, but we have not the vision that was given to the ancient by his disciplines. We do not see behind all this immense confusion the shadowy figures of gods standing, waiting, hoping, or enraged. We do not recognize that behind this drama is law. Law inevitable and irrefutable and immutable. We do not realize that all this phenomena suspends from one great noumenal cause. We do not find that spirit whose body nature is, and God the soul. We have not this experience. Therefore, we profane the mysteries as Cambyses robbed the temples and sanctuaries of ancient initiation. The heathen came in, the conqueror, the dictator, spoiled the temple of its treasures, scattered its priests, and forced strange and foreign gods upon the worshippers. This is what has more or less happened today. The great temple of our world has been plundered of its mysteries, plundered of its sublimity and of its great mystical meaning by the rise of conquerors. Some who have wanted to conquer space, and others conquer science, and some conquer death, some conquer life. But the conqueror has taken the place of the worshipper. We live no longer to enrich the temple, but to pillage it of its treasures. And our earth is indeed laid waste by the ambitions of men. So our civilization, like some ruined sanctuary of the past, may become only a wrecked and shadowed thing if we continue in our present courses. However, the old mysteries also pointed out that man does with this ritual according to himself. What he brings to it, he receives from it. The measure with which he understands measures the way in which he will be understood, and vice versa. Thus, between modern man and the true vision of this thing, there is no more than those few steps that separated the marketplace of Athens from the sanctuary of the mysteries. There was only a few steps, and man must take those steps in some way. He must take them by restoring the soul of learning in himself. He must, by a subtle shift of his own perspective, suddenly find himself again in the temple. He is not in a factory. This world is not an institution. It is a sanctuary. It is not some strange prison or place of exile. It is not some terrible, pressing burden upon the spirit. It is a sanctuary, but we do not know it. And because in so many cases our creeds have become a bondage upon our spirits, we have forgotten that the universe is free, that it is a free place of free worship, that it is a place in which men find their inner life on a marketplace, on a street, in a forest, or in some anchorite's cave. It makes no difference where. But they are forever in the presence of the great ritual. The ritual that science examines in test tubes and under microscopes. The ritual that electronic science seeks with its mathematical formulas. All research projects, all these things are explorations by ritualistic means into ritualistic mysteries. All the rest is of a seeming. This is of the fact. And each scientist today pays homage to the ancient gods because he does not dare to perform an experiment which is contrary to law. The law holds him, and he cannot escape it. He knows if the law is broken, the experiment cannot succeed. He denies the lawmaker, but he cannot evade the law. If then in this thinking we find Pike's point of value, then by being taken into a house of initiation, into some sanctuary of rites, into some secret body of those bound by obligations, and there perceives the unfolding of some ritual of hoary antiquity, this individual may, perhaps, if he has a sheer genius in his spirit, and in this case the genius means a good daemon or a spiritual protector, perhaps a guardian angel. But if he has this spirit in himself, he suddenly finds in the unfolding of the temple ceremony the key to his total living. He becomes aware that he is simply being told that he has been given a new dimension of awareness, a new way of looking at things, something that changes patterns and situations just as truly and mysteriously and as wonderfully as Joseph Smith's eyeglasses are supposed to have done in the story of Mormonism. That by means of a new pair of glasses he can read something that no one else has ever been able to read, at least not without the same pair of glasses or one their like. But actually all you have to have in order to read the mystery, to read the strange characters traced by living nations, races, and persons upon the face of the earth, all that we need is the proper pair of glasses, the proper way of seeing. And the ritualistic procedure is an introduction to a new dimension of seeing. It is that which enables us to see not things, but through things. A kind of seeing which enables us to avoid the delusion of the evident. Something which gives to us this penetrating capacity to make veils become transparent, because our own sight has gained a new penetrating power. The key is simple enough. It is so obvious that few find it. And that is this simple fact that when we observe under tutelage or under direction a certain ritual and are told that it has a meaning, we are then stimulated to look for it. But when we turn away from this, and our scholars, our scientists, all our most progressive leaders, really progressive ones, tell us that this world also has a meaning, we are not inspired to seek it. We assume we see it already, that its meaning is given to us in terms of wars and taxes, earthquakes, pestilences, and local smog. That this is it. And that we are fortunate indeed if we can pass through our 80 years with a reasonable degree of comfort and make a somewhat dignified exit. That is all there is to it. It has never occurred to us to apply this key, the key to break through the obvious. The key by means of which men like Toynbee, for instance, have discovered that history is not merely a record, history is a motion. History is a dance. Nations dance their dance of death. Nations whirl themselves like some strange Muslim dervish into their own eternity. That all the things that we talk about are really great symbolic patterns, and that from these we can, if we have the insight, discover the whole mystery of existence. That instead of having to read thousands of books, we can open our eyes and watch the living book of nature, the living book of life, human nature, national policies. And there is not a day that goes by that the most deformed and defamed misrepresentation of news in our daily papers does not at the same time contain the secret of immortality for someone if he knows how to read it. It is the secret of the difference between life and death, to read not the line nor between the line, but through the line into that part of universal pattern which this story reveals. And even though it has not been truly told, still some of the pattern is still there. Thus, by the observation of ritual, we become aware that we must never allow ourselves merely to accept. Not accept in the sense of intellectually acknowledging, this I see is enough. We are saved to a degree, as I said earlier, by the fact that we do not intellectualize ritual for the most part. We do find a receptivity and simply permit it to move us. We can do to a measure the same thing with life. But we must be sure that the thing that moves us is the true part, the true meaning of the rite, the true significance of that which is unfolding and occurring around us. I would say then that Pike's thinking, in bringing it down to more factual terms, is that the ancients took the world, made a miniature of it, and called it rite or ceremony. They then took the ceremony and taught their disciples to unfold it until they were able to rediscover the world from which the rite was taken. The ritual or ceremony was greatness captured in a miniature pageantry, and man, beholding the miniature pageantry, could move through it into the greatness for which it stood. Thus it was a two-way road, a road of bringing great things within the reach of man, and also of lifting man so that he was in the reach of great things. This double process means, and meant at that time, that in the ritual was combined what we call today religion, philosophy, and science. Under philosophy we would have education. Under science, all experimental and phenomenal knowledge. And under religion, all estimation and apperception of causation, the divine metaphysics of the spheres. These things were there. And education, theoretically and factually, began by man being exposed to these models of the world. It is said the ancient in his wisdom made little models of great things, and these little models became the toys of the young. These little models of great things are the symbols within which man hid his knowledge, and they became the playthings of the young. For we as peoples, unaware of their sacredness, used for toys those laws and principles and those productions within which the secret of universal truth was concealed. So out of this point comes one kind of mood which we would like to try to capture for a moment, and that is this mood of persistent inquiry, this mood of man suddenly finding a new focusing of his sense of sight and hearing so that he could become aware of value under service. As Maimonides said, beneath the body of the law is the soul of the law. Beneath the soul of the law is the spirit of the law. Paracelsus said that those who would understand the mysteries of nature must walk the